Jeff, it's good to talk to you because so many of the Wall Streeters that I talk to, their kids go to Avenues. You've been pretty aggressive in communicating the different options that you're offering this fall. What's on the docket?
Yes, we've tried to come up with as many flexible plans as we could for faculty, family, and students in order to meet their needs during these unique times. So from using our online campus to, as you mentioned, opening a studio campus in the Hamptons, to providing digital options, to providing teachers actually in people's homes. We've tried to meet the needs that are needed right now so that our students, families, and faculty can thrive.
Jeff, is an online education as valuable as an in-person education? Can you charge as much for one as you can the other?
Absolutely. I think that it is unfortunately a prevailing myth that in-person instruction is de facto superior to online learning. We've known for over 30 years that online learning can be just as effective as in-person instruction, as long as the learning experiences are crafted in an appropriate way and the supports are put in place. So we've actually been developing our online campus for over 5 years. And so before remote learning was required, we already offered online learning options for families.
Right, which is interesting because I feel like a lot of schools are now rushing to try and understand what hybrid learning or online learning looks like, but you already had a platform like you said. So from my understanding, that's like $30,000 versus in the 40s if you're actually going to school. What kind of uptake do you think you're going to get? And if it's at a discount, doesn't that kind of imply that maybe it's just not as good as if you were in person?
Well, we think it implies it's the same quality, but there are different cost structures. Obviously, in an online environment, we don't need some of the certain physical facilities that are required for a school in New York City, in Sao Paulo, Brazil, or in Shenzhen, China. So we share that with our families. At the same time, there's a lot of infrastructure that goes in to online learning and the design of it. So, for instance, for our students that are in toddler through 5th grade, we also offer an option to have a teacher come into the home, because before students are independent, they need an adult to help mediate that learning. Once students get kind of past 11, 12 years old, many are able to learn independently, and then they can work in the online environment more on their own.
Jeff, how much help have you had to give teachers to making the transition to online? It sounds like you've been thinking about this for quite some time. Are some teachers better at teaching online than they are in person, and vice versa? And how do you get teachers to pivot from one to the other?
Certainly, we have the advantage of having an R&D department as part of Avenues that has been working on this, and so we've been able to support our school as well as our technology integrators. I mean, one of the things that has been challenging for all schools that haven't had experience in online is that this is an emergency response moving to distance learning. Most teacher colleges and universities don't even provide professional development or part of their degree program of having a course teaching it online. Moving from a physical environment directly to a digital environment doesn't work. You really have to design for the digital environment specifically. So we've worked a lot over this past 6 months and going into the school year to make sure we're well prepared for students moving to online, whether they start in the school year in online like we are in Sao Paulo, Brazil, or whether we go face-to-face instruction or need to move in between during the school year.
Jeff, Avenues is by far one of the top schools in New York. Like I mentioned, a lot of Wall Street kids go there. There has been a lot of conversation, though, about the inequity when it comes to education, particularly in the pandemic, made much, much worse. Are you doing anything for scholarships or to reach out to other portions of the population to help them get access to this kind of education?
Absolutely. We'll have over 300 students that will be part of the Avenues community this year who are receiving financial assistance. Likewise, one of the things that we've tried to do is share any of our learnings freely with other schools in the U.S. and around the globe. So we've hosted webinars in distance learning. What are the first principles of what good online learning looks like, so that as schools are pivoting to remote, that we're sharing some of our learning, as well as our reopening plans that we publish for each of our schools. There's a lot that schools can do in order to make their environment safer as we go back to face-to-face instruction, and we've tried to make that information of what we've learned readily available to all schools.
How do you benchmark? Clearly, a lot of schools are trying to figure out, in the absence of exams, how they're going to benchmark going forward. Are we going to see exams? Are we not going to see exams? What are your conversations with other schools looking like as you see students transferring in and out? What are your conversations with universities, et cetera, looking like, as well as you think about how students are ultimately going to progress through the system? How do we benchmark kids when we don't have the traditional tools to do it?
Yeah, since our founding, we have been less focused on tests as the best benchmarks for what students can and are able to do. We think more authentic learning, students demonstrating what they're doing through long-term projects, through mastery and passion type projects, are a better way to demonstrate what students know and understand. And so in our relationships with college and universities, I think they understand that that's the profile of an Avenues graduate. At the same time, we think that what is equally important is not only what you know, but how you can respond to novel and new situations. So one of the things that we're very focused on is less about teaching students exactly what they should think, but helping students to figure out how they can approach things that they've never seen before. So certainly these times show that we need future worldwide leaders who are going to be equipped to understand and solve global scale problems, things that they've never seen before. And we hope to prepare our students for that.